Let's try some of the fabulous buttonholes on the Pfaff sewing machine. So first off, go to your main menu and go over to the third subcategory. Now, wow, there's way more than most of you will probably ever use, but what are the differences? Touch the question mark and touch any buttonhole and it will give you a description. For example, this one is the decorative buttonhole with a triangle tack. So it's a decorative buttonhole. The first one's actually a thin one. The second one is what I would call your standard buttonhole. So that's a little bit wider. If you do the first one, it's a little thinner than you might want. You do need to find your buttonhole foot. It's usually stored in the back part of your machine. And you are recommended some stabilizer underneath your fabric. Notice the IDT symbol is not on the screen, so make sure, I'm going to do that right now, I'm going to disengage that so it is not in use, and I'm not trying to put my buttonhole foot on when there's not room for it. So this is the automatic buttonhole foot. There is a manual version, that's your 5M foot. This one is your 5A, A for automatic. So this is the one we're going to actually work with. It is censored, so this is going to travel down and know exactly how big we are making our buttonhole. So you do want where you can see the little red arrow. This is the front of the foot, so make sure you're not putting it on actually backwards. So first off, I'm going to do is just go ahead and snap that in place. Now you notice there's a little plug. So about halfway back on the side of the machine here, you might just need to tip your head underneath and actually see that place where the plug is so you know where you're putting it into. Next, if you actually have your button that you're going to be using, you can open up the top part of your machine and notice there is a part you can measure your button and actually dial in the size. This is a 15 millimeter button length. And right here, the kind of the second plus minus areas, we can actually go in and tell it what length we need for our button. So I'm going to go ahead. It starts at 16. That's kind of the default setting. And I'm going to just reduce it down to 15. The other thing to kind of take a look at is that on screen here, we see that the arrow, the green arrow, is pointing away from us. That means the starting point is actually at the lower part of the buttonhole. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're getting set up. The next thing to do, and I'm going to show you this off the machine, then I'll put it back on, is when we go to start the buttonhole, move the red arrow into the little notch. And when the presser foot comes down, then it knows it's starting in the right place. You'll notice it can come a little forward and away from it. So that's what we're shooting for when we line this up. So you saw how quick and easy the buttonhole feet can go on, which I love how easy that is. And I believe, oh yeah, you don't see that little area when the buttonhole foot is not plugged in. It is not censored there. So here we go. There's a little place. Good. So let's go ahead. I'll put it back to 15. So remember, our buttonhole is going to start in the front and then work our way away from us. I'll move the buttonhole foot so it lines up with the red arrow. Lower the presser foot down. Let's just go ahead and stitch a buttonhole. Now if you want, you can use the start-stop button for buttonholes, and then all you have to do is pretty much just wait till it's done. I'm stepping on the foot control as it's doing it, and it's doing the whole sequence. It's even changing on screen at what point it's at, and it'll finish with the bar tack. It will lock it. And listen, it's the thread cutter. The thread cutter function is programmed into the end of each buttonhole. And this was just my little thread from when I started. But now we have the perfect length that we can test and then make sure it's correct. And then all we have to do is push start for the next one. Let's go ahead and do it with the automatic. So I'm not holding anything. I'm just kind of watching and making sure. The only thing you have to do is start where you want to start and then let the whole buttonhole travel until it's done. I would recommend that you take some time to try out each of the different styles of buttonholes that are built into this machine. There's keyhole buttonholes, there is stretch buttonholes, and then of course we're going to do the sewing on of the button as we have it, and just different ways to do it. There's even a straight stitch buttonhole for like suede, or even a bound buttonhole function. So when you look at how buttonholes are done, they are very easy, especially on the Pfaff Creative 4.5 sewing machine. So next up, we are going to show you how to do a manual buttonhole and a corded buttonhole.